Hi, you guys. How are you doing? Good to see you again. All right, we're going to get started on 8.4, day 2. This is 8.4b. Now, there is a front and a back to these notes, and we're going to kind of be doing the same thing we did yesterday and simplifying, except we're going to be multiplying and dividing. So you're going to be seeing more than just a simple fraction, but it's pretty simple, really. All right, so assume that no variables makes the denominator 0. So we're going to go ahead and I want you to add something underneath where it says the simplified form, and I want you to put restricted values. Okay, so we already see that the y cannot equal 0 and the x cannot equal 0. So those are the restricted values that we need to start off with. All right, now when you're multiplying, you can just multiply straight across. But what I like to do is I like to cancel. So you can cancel with anything that's in the numerator and the denominator, or numerator, denominator. And then the same way, you could do numerator with denominator or numerator with denominator. Okay? All right, so I see that the 3 and the 15 both have a factor of 3. So 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. All right, now, there's several things you could do, but we're going to go ahead now, and we're going to go ahead and multiply everything in the numerator. So we're going to put the coefficient first, and then we're going to put the variables in alphabetical order. So x cubed y. All right, so we're going to have to do 2 times 5, which is 10. Put the x first, x to the 4th, y. Okay, now we could have done that a little bit differently. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do 7 over 10. We're going to do x to the 3 minus the 4. And I'm just showing you this work. You could do 3 minus 4 in your head and just say, I know it's -1, and that's fine. I'm just helping you remember. And then 1 minus 1 is going to be 0. And when you think about it, both those y's cancel out. All right, so we're going to say that this is 7x to the -1 over 10. And we don't want to leave any negative exponents. So we're going to take that x to the -1, and we're going to bring it down into the denominator, and it becomes a +1. So right here where it says simplified form, that's going to be where we put our answer. So that's going to be 7 divided by 10x. That is our answer. And then we have the restricted values right below it. So kind of similar to yesterday. You're just having to cancel a little bit more. All right, let's go move on to B. All right, so we're going to cancel. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 9 3 times. All right, so now we're going to multiply the top. 1 times 1 is 1. I'm not writing the 1 because I'm going to write m to the 4th, and I'm going to write n. All right, on the bottom, 3 times 4 is 12. I have to write that. I'm going to write m squared, and I'm going to write n to the -3. All right. All right, so now we have 12 on the bottom. We have m to the 4 minus 2, and we have n to the 1 minus -3. Remember, minus a negative makes it a plus. So now we have m squared, 4 minus 2 is 2, and n to the 1 plus 3 is 4. All right, and that's our final answer. All right, so we're going to put down here for our simplified form. This is our m squared times n to the 4th over 12. Now this time you notice that I didn't do the restricted values first. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't as long as you know, I'm going to erase a little bit here, that you have to go back to the original problem to figure out your restricted values. So n, if you set that equal to 0, n cannot be 0. And if you set this equal to 0, m cannot be 0. So you see that happens a lot of the time. And you could put n comma m cannot be 0 if you wanted to. Okay? All right, let's go to C. All right, now this looks like more of an expression. So we're going to have to factor like we were doing yesterday. So if you look at these two, 12b minus 8, I know that 4 can go into both of them. So 4 times what? 3b. And then 4 times what would be negative 8, negative 2. All right, let's go ahead and do the denominator. That's going to be 3 times 2b is 6b. And why in the world I did that, I don't know. Let's not do 3 because they don't have 3 in common. They have a 2 in common. Sorry. So we're going to do 2. 2 times what is 6b? 3b. 2 times what is negative 4? Negative 2. All right, now for this next one, we're going to pull out a negative 2. So negative 2 times b plus 2. All right, for the denominator, we're going to pull out a 3. 3 times b plus 2. Now, right now is when you might want to go ahead and do your restricted value, because all you've done, you haven't started canceling yet, and you have the easiest way to find your restricted value is after you factor. So you set this equal to 0 and you set this equal to 0 and you figure out what your restricted values can or cannot be. Now, if you wanted to do this one, set it equal to 0. You could. You're going to get the same answer. Or you can set this one equal to 0. Okay? So I'm going to pause for a minute and let you do that. All right. So whichever way you did it, whether you set this equal to 0 or this one right here equal to 0, you're still going to get the same answer. So 3b minus 2 is not equal to 0. You add 2 to both sides. You divide by 3. So b cannot be 2/3. B cannot be 2/3. All right, now we're going to do the other one. You already know what b plus 2. B can also not be negative 2. Because when you set that equal to 0, you'll know that it's negative 2. All right, so it didn't matter of those which one you set equal to 0 because 6b minus 4 and this is equal to the same thing. And 3b plus 6 and this is equal to the same thing. And you haven't canceled yet. So we just went ahead and did the restricted values first. All right, so now we're going to do some canceling. So, well, this is going to work out nice. Those cancel. Those cancel. 2 goes into 2 one time, and 2 goes into 4 two times. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And 1 times 3 is 3. All right, then that's our answer. That's our simplified form. Negative 4/3. That's our answer. All right, let's look at D now. So we're going to set them equal. We're going to go ahead and pull out a 2 here. 2 times x plus 3 is 2x plus 6. Pull out a 6 in the denominator. 6 times x minus 4 will be 6x minus 24. All right, for the one up top, I'm going to just switch it right here and put negative 2x plus 8. I like to put the variable first and the constant second because if I'm going to be able to figure out whether or not I can cancel, that's usually the order that what I can cancel with will be in. So we're going to pull out a negative 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and then negative 2 times negative 4 will give me the positive 8. All right, and then in the bottom, I can't do a thing with that denominator. All right, so now you're going to want to set this equal to 0, and we know for the restricted values, I think say the restricted form. It's not restricted form, it's restricted values. X cannot be 4. And then if I set the 5x plus 7 not equal to 0, and I subtract 7, and I divide by 5, we know that x cannot be negative 7/5. So x cannot be 4, and it cannot be negative 7/5. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and cancel. Now that we figured out our restricted values, we see that the x minus 4's cancel. I could say 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 6 3 times, and I don't see anything else that can cancel. All right, so we're going to take the negative 2, we always put the constant out in front, and multiply it by the x plus 3. All right, so we multiply the numerator. Now we're going to take the 3, put it out in front, and multiply it by the 5x plus 7. And that is your answer. That is your simplified form. Now, there's no need for you to just distribute it back and give me another answer. Just leave it like that. If it can't be factored anymore, just leave it broken up like that. All right, E. All right, so we're going to go ahead and factor everything that we can factor. So for the first one, I'm not going to have a lot of room right there, so I'm going to do it underneath it. X and X. What two numbers when multiplied give me 6? Negative 6, but when combined, give me a positive 1. So it's going to be 3 and 2. The 3 will be positive, and the 2 will be negative. All over x minus 5 times, this is a special case, x times x, and then a minus 5 and a plus 5. All right, and then for the denominator, we have x and x. There's only two numbers that when multiplied give me 3, and they're both going to be positive because I want when I add them to make 4. All right, so now if you look at all of your denominators, you would set those equal to 0. All right, for your restricted values, we know that x cannot be 5, negative 1, or negative 3. All right, so now we're going to go and we're going to cancel. All right, let's see what we can cancel. The x plus 3 and the x plus 3 and the x minus 5 and the x minus 5, and we're done. All right, our simplified form is x minus 2 times x plus 5 all over x plus 1. And leave it just like that. Don't go multiplying everything out or distributing or doing FOIL or any of that. Not necessary. All right, let's look at F. We're still multiplying all of these, you guys. All right, for the first one, x and x. What two numbers when multiplied give me 12, but when combined give me a negative 7. That's going to be a negative 3 and a negative 4, because negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12, and negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7. All right, then we have a special case, x and x plus 3 and minus 3. All right, times, break the numerator down to x and x. Now this one's a little trickier because you're thinking, well, 6 times 1 is 6, and if I subtracted them, I could get 5. But then 2 times 3 is 6, and when I add them, I can get 5. Well, since both of these are pluses, both of these are going to have to be pluses. So you can only choose the 3 and the 2. You can't choose the 6 and the 1 because it won't work if you went back and FOILed it. All right, for the denominator, x and x, 4 and 2. Since this is a minus and this is a minus, the bigger one has to be, the bigger factor has to be a minus. So it's going to be a negative 4 and a plus 2. All right, we're ready to do our restricted values. Our restricted values for x is x cannot be negative 3, positive 3, negative 2, positive 4. All right, I did not give myself much room. So we said negative 3, positive 3, negative 2, and positive 4. All right. I know some of my students are saying, can I just put plus or minus 3? I don't care. All right, now let's go cancel. Okay, the x minus 3's cancel. The x plus 3 and the x plus 3 cancels. The x plus 2 and the x plus 2 cancels. The x minus 4 and the x minus 4 cancels. And your answer is not 0. Because remember, if you were canceling 3 over 3, 3 goes into 3 once and 3 goes into 3 once, you still have a 1 for your answer. And that is your answer for this one. Because when you cancel those out, there's always a 1 sitting up there. Wherever you want to put it, there's 1s up there in front of everything. So that's your simplified answer. All right, go ahead and go to the next page. That was multiplication. And now we're going to do division. All right, now, this is the trick with division. It's going to be just like multiplication, except you're going to change the sign to multiplication and flip. So you're going to keep, change, flip. Keep, change, flip. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Okay. Keep it, change it, flip it. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Keep this, change this, and flip this. Now, you cannot figure out your restricted values until you do that. You have to do that. All right, so your restricted values, x cannot be and y cannot be. Because look, there's a y and there's an x. And if you set both the 5y cubed equal to 0, you would find out that you don't want it to be 0. And if you set the 10x to the 5th equal to 0, you would find that y cannot be 0. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do some canceling. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 25 5 times. 2 goes into 6 3. 2 goes into 10 5 times. And you can cancel the x values now if you want. I'm just going to write them all together because sometimes that helps people. So multiply the 3 times the 5 and get 15 x y to the 4th over 1 times 5 is 5. Y cubed and x to the 5th. So x to the 5th and y cubed. All right, we still have to cancel. So, and I could have canceled right here. I didn't catch it that those could have been gone, which would have just made this a 3. All right, so now we have 3 and x to the 1 minus 5 and y to the 4 minus 3. All right, so we have 3x to the negative 4, y to the 1, and we won't write it. We're going to put this over 1. We're going to take the x to the negative 4, and we're going to bring it down into the denominator, and it's going to become x to the 4th. And I'm just going to slide my y over a little bit, and that is my final answer, 3y over x to the 4th. X cannot be 0, and y cannot be 0. All right, keep 15 n to the 5th over 6m squared. Change that to a time sign and flip. So 6 n to the negative 8 and 5m to the negative 4. Now you notice when I flipped those, I didn't go changing the sign of any exponents. Okay, that's not what you do here, because that's not what you would do if you're multiplying like 1/4 or you're dividing 1/4 divided by 2. Okay, you wouldn't. You would keep, you would change it, you would flip it. You don't change any exponent values. All right, so let's see what cancels. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 15 3 times. The 6's both cancel. All right, so we have 3 times 1, which is 3. And I have n to the 5 and n to the negative 8. So it's really 5 minus 8 because they're both in the numerator. So that's n to the negative 3. And in the denominator, I have a 1, but I'm not going to write it. I have m squared and then m to the negative 4. So 2 minus 4 is m to the negative 2. You can switch both of those and turn their exponents to positive. So 3m squared over n cubed. And that is our simplified form. All right, I did not do my restricted values first. And remember, you wait to do your restricted values if you had to factor, but I didn't have to factor. Now, remember where you go to do your restricted values. You do not go in a division problem, you do not go to the first one. You go to the one where you kept and you changed and you flipped. You're looking at that one, okay? You have to go to the one where you've kept the first one, you've changed the sign, and you've flipped the second fraction. So I see in the denominator all there was m squared and m to the negative 4. So I actually can go right here. So that tells me that m cannot be 0. Now, there's another thing I have to take into consideration. When I end up multiplying and I end up canceling and I end up changing places of the n to the negative 3 and the m to the negative 2, my n ends up in the denominator. Well, my n also cannot be 0 because if it ends up in the denominator and it ends up being 0, we're in trouble. And this hasn't happened yet, okay? If you notice with all the other problems, x and y both were in the denominator here. M and N were both there here. They were there here. Okay? If you look, that's all we're looking at. B's were in the denominator. X's were in the denominator. X's were in the denominator. X's were in the denominator. Okay, then on the back, when we went to this section, the X and the Y were in the denominator. Okay, but in this one, it was just the M that was in the denominator, but then when we got to our final answer, N was in the denominator. So we had to take care of that as well. That doesn't always happen. All right, we're going to keep the first one, but when I keep it, I'm going to go ahead and factor out the 3. So 3 times x plus y over 5 times y minus x. I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to change the sign to multiplication, and I'm going to flip. I'm going to put 15 down bottom in the denominator. And when I rewrite this, I'm going to pull out the 10 and put it in the numerator. So that's 10 times x minus y. Now, I've got to do something a little bit different for this one. See this one, how let me do it in red so you know where I'm at. You see this, how the y and the x were not in alphabetical order. Okay, we're going to fix that. We're going to erase this because it's going to help us out, okay? And I'm going to take that and I'm going to put negative 5x plus 5y. All I did was switch their order, kind of like a plus b and b plus a, okay? All right, now I'm going to pull out a negative 5 and I'm going to do x minus y. Now, do you see how everything that I factored out had x and y, x and y, x and y in that order? Okay, now you see, because I factored it that way, where I can cancel. We're going to do that in a minute, but we're going to go ahead and see what is it that the x and y cannot be. We're going to find our restricted values first. So you're going to set this right here, not equal to 0. Okay, x minus y is not equal to 0. And then you really are supposed to set negative 5 is not equal to 0. But that doesn't really give you an answer. Negative 5 is not ever going to be 0. Okay, so that's like duh. So this is something a little different. We have to put that x minus y cannot be 0. We don't really know exactly what they cannot be, but we know that when we combine them or subtract y from x, our answer cannot be 0. All right, now we're going to cancel. I accidentally erased my 5. Let me put it back. All right, our x minus 5s can cancel. 5 goes into 15 3 times, and 5 goes into 10 2 times, and then 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 3 once. So I have a 1 times a 2 in the numerator, and then I still have the x plus y, and then I just have the negative 5 in the denominator, and that's it. I'm going to, well, let me erase it. That's fine. I'm going to box it. That is my simplified form. All right, let's look at D. We're going to start by keep, change, flip, but when I keep, I'm going to go ahead and pull out the factor. So 4 times m minus 2 over 2 times 2m plus 3. Change the sign to multiplication. Flip these two, but when I do, I'm going to go ahead and factor out. So I'm going to do the numerator first, so I have to do this one first. And I want to put them in order. So I am going to go ahead and make this 12m plus 18. I'm going to take that and put it in the numerator. But what does 12m and 18 have in common? I believe we can pull out a 6. So 6 times 2m plus 3. And then we're going to take this and put it in the denominator, but we're going to pull out an 8. So we have 8 times m minus 2. Now, you don't have to do both of those at the same time. If you want to do this and do 4 times m minus 8 over 4 times, 2 times 2m plus 3 divided by, and if you want to go ahead and put 8 times m minus 2, and then you're going to end up switching these. And if you want to just write, okay, 12m plus 18, and do it in more steps than I'm doing it, you can. With the 12m plus 18, that's when you pull out the 6 and you do the 2m plus the 3. Okay, so I'm going to switch that out. Whoops, I went off the page, so it kind of knocked me off. Okay, we're going to switch that to 6 times 2m plus 3. And then you could go to this next step that I'm doing, where you are literally taking these two and flipping them. Okay, that's kind of where we're at now. All right, we're going to go ahead, set this equal to 0 and set this equal to 0 and see what m cannot be. So we're going to put restricted values. So I can already tell that m is not going to be 2. And then 2m plus 3 cannot be 0. 2m cannot be negative 3 divided by 2. M cannot be negative 3 halves. So m cannot be 2 or negative 3 halves. Those are the two things that cannot be. All right, now we're going to go what I call be cancel happy. We're going to cancel a lot of stuff. The m minus 2 and the m minus 2. 2 goes into 2, 1. 2 goes into 4, 2. 2 goes into 6, 3. 2 goes into 8, 4. 2 goes into 2, 1. 2 goes into 4, 2. So I'm left with a 3 on top and a 2 on bottom. 2m plus 3, 2m plus 3. All right, so my answer is 3/2. So my simplified form is 3/2. That is my answer. All right, 2 more. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and factor everything first in case you liked me doing it that way a while ago. So x cubed cannot be factored anymore. I'm going to do x, 3 and 3. This is a plus, but this is a minus. So to make that a plus, this is going to have to be a minus, minus, or a plus, plus. So it can't be a plus, plus, because when I add negative 3x and negative 3x, I'm going to have to get negative 6x. All right, divided by, I'm not going to keep flip yet, okay? 2x over x minus 3, x plus 3. Now I'm going to keep flip. So I'm going to keep going to change it to multiplication. I'm going to flip it. X minus 3 times x plus 3 over 2x. I'm going to go ahead and figure out my restricted values. Okay, so my restricted values. X cannot be 3 or 0, because if I set these equal to 0, that would be 3, so it can't be 3. And if I set this equal to 0, it's going to be 0. All right, so now we're going to cancel. X minus 3 and x minus 3 can only cancel it once. Okay, there's an x on the bottom, and there's 3 x's on the top, so that turns to 2. So 3 minus 1 makes that x squared. All right, so my numerator has x squared, and it still has x plus 3 over my denominator has a 2, and it has x minus 3. That is your simplified form. That is your answer. All right, the last one, we have 2 sets of parentheses here. We're going to go ahead and factor first. So we have c and 4 and 2. Since this is a negative and this is a positive, your larger number has to be positive and your smaller number has to be negative. So we're going to divide by c and 4 and 3. Since this is a negative and this is a positive, your larger number has to be positive, your smaller number has to be negative, and 12c doesn't change. All right, now we're going to keep. We're going to change it to multiplication. We're going to flip it where it's 12c over c minus 3 and c plus 4. Now let's go ahead and figure out our restricted values. Restricted values. Okay. Can't have 3, negative 4, or 0. If I set all those equal to 0, that's what I would find out. That c cannot be 3, negative 4, or 0. All right, now we're going to cancel. So let's see. 4 goes into 4 once and into 12 3 times. The c plus 4s cancel out. And then this is a 1 minus a 3. So it's going to end at 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So we're going to have c to the negative 2 times c minus 2. That's all in the numerator. Remember, when we did 1 minus 3, we're done with those, okay? And we put c to the negative 2. Oh, there's a 3 there too that I about left off. So I'm going to put the 3 out in front because that's not good. All right, on the bottom, I have a c minus 3. Now remember, we cannot keep the negative in the numerator. So we're going to do 3 times c minus 2 over, we're going to take the c to the negative 2 and bring it down, and it becomes c squared times c minus 3, and that is your simplified form. So it's just a lot of canceling, really. Canceling and factoring. All right, so today is May the 6th. We did 8-4, Part B, Rational Expressions, Multiplying and Dividing. You're going to do page 531, 15 through 25 odds. Check your answers in the back of the book. And then tomorrow, you're going to upload your test prep worksheet. Let me go ahead and look at them so you know which ones you need to do. Yeah, you need to do all of them, 1 through 5. Okay, so numbers 1 through 5. All right. All right, you guys. I guess I'll see you Friday, okay, for 8-5A. And then what we're going to do next, after we do 8-5A on Friday, that's part 1. We're going to do part 2 on, pulling up my little chart here so I can tell you right and not lead you wrong. We're going to do 8-5B part 2 on May the 11th. And that's going to be the last day for new material. We're still going to have homework to do, some reviews to do, some tests to do, but we're going to start reviewing material just so you kind of have some of that old material in your head. All right? All right. See you Friday. Bye.